A very warm good morning to all of you. Dear students, once again, I would like to welcome all of you to a new session of the Civics class. Today, we are continuing with the same chapter, chapter number 3, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, part 8. With this part, we are going to wind up this chapter. We are dealing with the last part of this chapter. Do you remember what we were discussing in the last class? In the last class, we were focusing on two important points. First one, Prime Minister inside the Parliament. What is the role of the Prime Minister inside the Parliament? Second one, Prime Minister as leader of the nation. Since he is the people's representative, he has certain duties and responsibilities towards the nation. So what are the different duties and responsibilities towards the nation? That's what we were discussing in the last class. And today we are going to focus on three important points. First one, check on the authority of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is having a lot of power. He is the real executive and the President is the nominal executive. So as the real executive, there are number of powers vested with the Prime Minister. But at the same time, certain limitations are there. In certain cases, he is not having much power, or in certain cases, he has to act properly, otherwise he will lose his power. So check on the authority of the Prime Minister. And second one, collective responsibility of a minister. And third one, individual responsibility of a minister. So these are the three different points which we are going to discuss today. So without wasting time, let's move to the class. Check on the authority of the Prime Minister. He is the leader of the majority party. Of course, we have seen this particular point in the previous class. The majority party's leader will be invited by the president to form the government. So, leader of the majority party becomes the Prime Minister. In such case, he has to ensure the support of his ministers. Once if he loses the support of his ministers, he will lose his power as well as his party, which means along with the support of his ministers, he has to get the support of his party too. Until he enjoy the support of his party as well as the ministers, he can remain in his power. Or in other words, he can remain in his post as the Prime Minister when he get the support of his party. And not only just the support, majority party support. So that's the first point, check on the authority of the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister has to ensure that he is getting the support of his ministers as well as his party. Second one, in coalitions, which means in certain cases, one particular party will not be having majority in Lok Sabha. In such cases, number of parties together will be forming government. When does not enjoy an absolute majority, his position becomes more vulnerable. So when a particular party is not having absolute majority, they are getting the support of other minor parties. And along with the minor party support, one particular political party will be proving their majority in the parliament, and in such case, the position of the Prime Minister becomes more vulnerable, which means it can badly affect his powers. And third point is about the opposition looking for a chance to criticize. When opposition party loses the government, the other party will be forming the government. That is the situation. So when the opposition party is not having their power, they will be waiting for a chance. They were looking for a chance to criticize the government, and that criticism can lose, or because of that criticism, the government can lose their power. So the ruling government or the ruling political party or the Prime Minister who is having power right now, he has to make sure that there will be no mistake from his side. Once if there is mistake, it can take away his powers. Fourth one, press and public opinion act as effective. The opinion of the public as well as the messages which are being circulated in the press and medias can influence the power of the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister has to make sure that the administration of the nation is functioning properly. Otherwise, it can affect or it can be a check on Prime Minister's authority. So these are the four different situations where the Prime Minister has to act properly, or else he can lose his power. So that's why we have told about the check on the authority of the Prime Minister. What are the limitations with the powers of the Prime Minister? Now we are going to see the next point, that is collective responsibility. Article 75(3) of our Constitution says that the Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the House of the people. The entire ministry has the responsibility. We have already seen different kinds of ministers, three different category of ministers. First one, cabinet ministers. Second one, ministers of the state. And third one, subordinate ministers. So these three different category of ministers has to work together because they have responsibility of the nation as a whole. So one minister cannot blame the other minister in case if there will be some problems in that particular department. The principles of collective responsibility implies. So these are the different points which implies in the collective responsibility. First one, the decisions of the cabinet are equally applicable to all the ministers. So if a decision is made by the cabinet, it is applicable to all the ministers. There we cannot give any kind of excuse like it's only about one particular department or it's only about one particular minister. No. The whole ministers has to follow it, equally applicable to all the ministers, even though they may differ among themselves. Or in other words, if they are having different departments, different portfolios and different ministries. If there is a problem in the defense ministry, the entire ministers has to support the defense ministry in order to maintain it properly. So even though they are from different departments, different portfolios, they have to support each other, collective responsibility. Second point, all share the responsibility for the government's policies. Government is changing its policy according to time, or in other words, government will be taking new policies for the development of the nation. So in such cases, all the ministers will share the responsibility for the government's policies, must function as a team in supporting and defending government. So the entire ministers has to work as a team. It's a teamwork. One minister cannot blame the other, or one minister cannot criticize the government or the prime minister or any other ministers. We are seeing number of controversial issues, number of problems which will be aroused in the country or in the parliament. In such cases, you might have witnessed that the ministers are supporting each other. So it is what is meant by collective responsibility, inside as well as outside the parliament. So it doesn't mean that one particular minister has to support one another minister only in the parliament. Not only inside the parliament as well as outside of parliament also they have to support each other. We are seeing number of press release. We are seeing number of statements given by ministers, which is a proved example that they are supporting each other. If one minister has got involved in a controversy, other ministers also will be speaking to support them. So it is a collective responsibility. Third point says that a vote of non-confidence against one minister is a vote against the whole ministry. So if it is a matter of non-confidence against one minister, and in the parliament, if the opposition party is able to get a positive response in the case of non-confidence motion, the entire minister has to resign. So it's not a question about one particular minister. The entire ministry will be getting its effect, which means they have to resign. So there itself, it will be very clear to you that what is meant by collective responsibility. So these are the three different points which will be giving a better idea about the collective responsibility. So if one decision is made by the cabinet, it has to be followed by all ministers, even though they are having different portfolios. Second one, all the responsibilities. All the ministers are sharing the responsibility for the government's policies, not only inside the parliament but also outside. And third one, vote of non-confidence against one minister is a vote against the whole ministry, and if the opposition party is able to win the non-confidence motion, the entire ministry has to resign. Now we are going to see about the individual responsibility. So first one, collective responsibility, now one individual responsibility. So as a whole, as a group, as a teamwork, they have got the responsibility and they have got individual responsibility over their particular department. The ministers are individually responsible to the president. So if one particular department is not functioning properly, he is responsible to the president. If the president is asking questions regarding the particular department, they are responsible because they could hold office during the pressure of the president, maybe dismissed by him on the advice of the prime minister. So unless and until they are not getting the support of the president, they cannot remain in his power. What is the reason? Because they will be getting dismissed. On what condition? On the advice of the prime minister. If there is a failure in the administration of a particular department, the president will be asking justification to the prime minister, and prime minister has to give answer to him. So in such cases, the prime minister will be dismissing that particular minister. So it can happen. Even they may have the confidence of the legislature. It doesn't matter whether they are having the support of the majority party, but make sure that their office is functioning properly, their department is functioning properly. If there is a failure, it will affect their power because they are answerable to the parliament. They are the members of parliament. They are getting elected from the parliament. They are directly being elected by the people. So they are answerable to the parliament, to the president, and through that they are answerable to the nation. So they cannot simply escape from their responsibility, individual responsibility. For the department under his control, he is responsible. Suppose if a minister who is having the responsibility over foreign affairs or defense, he is responsible to answer to the nation, answer to the president, answer to the parliament. Because that particular department is given to him. Answer all the questions asked by the MPs regarding the function of his department. So in the parliament, if there is a question regarding the responsibility of a particular minister, he is responsible to answer. He has to give justification. Why it happened? Is it because of the irresponsibility of certain officers, or is responsibility of his own nature, or that's his responsibility to answer those questions? Responsible for matters such as personal lapse, if there is a misbehavior, if there is a failure from his own personal side, or departure from official policy by him or his department, maybe an officer from his department, or maybe some other features which can influence or which can become a reason behind the failure of his department, or breach of oath of secrecy. We have already seen when a person is being appointed as a minister, he has to take an oath. So the failure or the violation of those oath of secrecy, so any of these reasons can be responsible, or the ministry will be responsible in the violation of any of these matters. In such cases, there can be non-confidence motion in the parliament, and it can affect that the entire government will fall. Or he is responsible to the president. In such cases, the prime minister can disqualify a minister. So these were the two different elements first one collective responsibility and second one individual responsibility. So under these two different elements we have seen what were the different conditions, and with this we are winding up this chapter. And my dear students, I think you all are very clear about what the points which we were discussing in this particular chapter. And in the next class we will be going to begin with a new chapter, and we will meet again in the next class. Till then, I would like to sign off. Thank you.